Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how I draw ginger hair in coloured pencil. I've already done a tutorial on how to draw blonde and brunette hair in coloured pencil, and I've also got a tutorial on how to draw black hair in coloured pencil to come as well. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of them. Anyway, let's get on with this tutorial. The first thing I'm going to do is just list all the colours that I'll be using in today's tutorial. I'm using Faber Castell Polychromos pencils today and also a white prismacolor pencil. I'm drawing this on Fabriano artistico watercolour paper, but you can use any sort of paper that has a good amount of tooth to it, so any sort of watercolour paper will do just fine. You need to use paper with a bit of tooth today because we're going to be doing a lot of different layers to build up the realism in this hair. I'm going to be using cream as a base colour, so I'll be using this as the lightest layer and for highlights, and I've also got some oranges and browns to help with the ginger, because ginger hair isn't just orange, it has a lot of brown tones in it as well, but I've kind of got brown tones that have orangey red undertones as well, like the burnt sienna. So I start by going over the top half of that curl with that lightest cream colour as the base. And then I start to go in with the terracotta and the burnt ochre to define where my shapes are. So basically I just follow the sketch that I drew so I know where the shadows are and the highlights are. When you're drawing hair, it's really important to draw the lines flowing with the hair, so go with the direction of the hair and don't draw in circular motions. And always make sure your pencil's really sharp so you can get that detail in those strands of hair as well. Make sure that you're using your pencil really lightly, otherwise we'll flatten the tooth of the paper and it'll be really hard to get additional layers on top. I now go in with the burnt sienna to define where those real shadows are, so the more darker parts of the hair. And again I'm doing this really lightly. When you're drawing hair, it's really important not to rush it. Take your time and pay a lot of attention to your reference photo. It's really important that you go in the correct direction because this gives the motion to the hair and makes it look more realistic and three-dimensional. I'm now going in with the burnt ochre to help transition between the shadows into the highlights so that it's not such an obvious change. This colour is also a really nice colour to use for ginger hair because it's not too orange, it has some nice brown tones to it as well. I'm now going in with the burnt umber, which was my darkest brown colour that I'm using, and I use this to highlight where the shadows are. We'll be going over this brown colour with some oranges as well so it transitions smoothly into the highlights, because at the moment it will look very harsh. I then go in with those oranges and the burnt sienna to transition from those shadows into those highlights, using lines that flow with the direction of the hair. I then use the cream to help smooth this out, take a bit of the graininess out, but also to help blend those colours into each other to make it more of a nice transition. I also then go in with the white prismacolor pencil to blend this all out fully. It really smooths all the colours and blends them into each other, but it also washes out some of the colours, so we'll have to go back in with those browns and oranges to replenish a lot of the colour that was lost when we blend. I'm now going back in with that base colour to go over those highlights again. And then I'm going to go in with those oranges to help transition between the shadows into the highlights. And I'll also go in with the burnt sienna over the shadows. I go over the top of the brown colours with those more orange colours so it doesn't look so flat. It gives it that nice auburn ginger colour to the hair. I then go back in with the darker brown colour again to deepen up those shadows. It's really important to use lots of layers to add depth to the hair. I then just go back in with those orange tones to help transition once again from those shadows into those highlights. I then go in with the black pencil, and I only use this on the darkest parts of the hair, and I won't just leave it black on its own. It would look very flat and unrealistic, but I will go in with those oranges and browns over the top of it to soften it out. To get some individual highlighted strands, I sharpen that cream pencil to a really sharp point, and then I use this with quite a bit of pressure over the top of the certain strands that I want to be more highlighted. I then go in with the Faber Castell ink eraser, and I use this sharpened to pull out some of those highlighted strands. It lifts the coloured pencil really well off the paper, and now I can go in with the cream and that white Prismacolor pencil to lighten it up further. I am now moving on to the second half of the hair, and I will be using the exact same technique that I did with the top half. So I start by layering that base colour of cream onto the curl, and then going in with those oranges to basically follow the sketch that I drew, so I know where the shadows are and where the highlights will be. I then go in again with that burnt sienna to further define where those shadows are, so I know more clearly where the shadows are and where the highlights are. I then use the orange colours to transition from those browner shadows into the highlights, so it's not as harsh. I then use the black pencil to define where the darkest parts of the shadows are, and then I'll go over that with the browner colours so that it doesn't look harsh and flat. I keep layering the browns and the oranges on top of each other to really enrich the colour to get a more realistic colour, and so it doesn't look flat. I then blend everything out with the white Prismacolor pencil. This smooths out the grainy look and also blends those colours into each other so it's not such an obvious transition. As this washes some of the colour out, I then go back in with those oranges over the top to give it that nice auburn look. I then use the black again on the darkest parts of the shadows, but I'll always go back over it with those browns. And I'll always make sure my last layer on the black is the browns over the top. I then use the cream to blend and also lift up those highlighted regions a bit, and then I go in with the Faber Castell ink eraser and the cream pencil to lift up some of those highlights a bit more. At the moment the curl looks very uniformed and there's no stray hairs, so what I do is I add with the orange pencil just some of those flyaway hairs around the curl. I'll then go in with the Faber Castell ink eraser to lift some of that colour off so they're not as harsh and in your face. I use the different oranges and browns so I can get different variations in the strands, and I'll only erase a few of them. This gives the illusion that some are more towards the back and some are further forward, because real hair will have a lot of variety to the strands. I then go in with those cream pencils to really define those highlights, and I'll just make some final touch up before this is finished. I also used a white sharpen prismacolor pencil and add some flyaways over the top of the curl. These stray hairs really make it look a lot more realistic. And that's it for this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss my future tutorials. I'll link the other hair tutorials in the description below so you can check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video.